I told my son he deserved his girlfriend breaking up with him. My son Tyler is 22, and he's honestly been my best friend since his mom left when he was 7. We've been through everything together, and I've always had his back, even when he was being an idiot teenager. But last month, I watched him completely destroy the best relationship he'd ever had, and I couldn't just sit there and pretend it was okay. Tyler had been dating this girl Emma for about 8 months. She was perfect for him. Smart, funny, actually got his weird sense of humor, and she genuinely cared about him. She'd come over for dinner every Sunday and would help me with dishes afterward just to talk. She even remembered my birthday when Tyler forgot it. The problem started when Tyler got this new job at some tech startup. Suddenly, he thought he was hot because he was making decent money for the first time. He started going out with his coworkers every night, coming home drunk at like 2 in the morning. Emma would text me asking if he was okay because he'd just disappear for hours without answering his phone. I tried talking to him about it, but he just brushed me off saying I didn't understand how important networking was for his career, which was because I've been working for 30 years, and I know the difference between networking and just being a drunk. Then last week, Emma came over looking completely exhausted. She'd been planning this weekend trip for them to go hiking because Tyler always said he wanted to get more into outdoor stuff. She'd booked the cabin, bought new hiking boots, even packed snacks he liked. The whole thing probably cost her like $300. The night before they were supposed to leave, Tyler decided he'd rather go to some company party instead. He didn't even tell her until she showed up at our house with her backpack ready to go. He just looked at her and said the party was more important for his career, and she was being dramatic. Emma started crying right there in my living room, not like angry crying, just this quiet, defeated sobbing that broke my heart. She said she felt like she didn't matter to him anymore, and maybe they should take a break. That's when Tyler completely lost it. He started yelling about how she was being clingy and holding him back from advancing his career. He said she was just jealous because she was still working at Target while he was moving up in the world. Then he said the thing that made me snap. He looked at this girl who'd been nothing but good to him and said maybe it was time he dated someone on his level anyway. Emma ran out crying and Tyler just shrugged like nothing happened. He actually said to me that he'd probably dodged a bullet because she was getting too serious anyway. I waited until the next morning when he was hungover and feeling sorry for himself to have the conversation. He was sitting at the kitchen table with his head in his hands, complaining about how Emma was ignoring his texts. I sat down across from him and said exactly what I was thinking, that he deserved to get dumped, that Emma was the best thing that ever happened to him, and he threw it away because he thought making $40,000 a year made him better than her. I told him he'd been acting like a selfish piece of for months, and if I was Emma, I would have left him way sooner, that she put more effort into their relationship in 1 week than he had in the past 2 months. Tyler got defensive and started saying I didn't understand the pressure he was under at work. So, I reminded him that Emma worked 2 jobs while going to school part-time and still made time for him, that she'd been supporting him and cheering him on while he treated her like she was disposable. I said the worst part wasn't even that he chose some random party over her. It was that he made her feel small and worthless when she was just trying to spend time with him. That the girl who remembered my birthday and asked about my day every time she came over deserved way better than a son who couldn't even remember to text her back. Tyler stormed out and didn't come home for 3 days. When he finally did, he looked like he hadn't slept at all. He sat down and admitted that Emma had officially broken up with him over text. She said she couldn't be with someone who made her feel like she wasn't enough. He asked if I thought there was any way to fix it, and I told him probably not. That when you make someone feel that worthless, sorry doesn't really cut it. But maybe he could learn something and not treat the next girl like garbage. Story. 2 years after our divorce, my ex-wife dragged me to court, demanding my new house for herself and her new husband. I showed up alone, no lawyer. But when the judge read her plan, he slammed the gavel and said just 5 words that changed everything. Chapter 1. 2 years of quiet. They say time heals. I wouldn't go that far, but it certainly makes the silence less unbearable. It had been 2 years since the ink dried on the divorce papers. 2 years since Marlene walked out of our 23-year marriage like it was a lease that had run its course. No warning, no counseling, just a text that read, "I need to find myself. Don't wait up." She found herself all right in the arms of Dennis Holbrook, a man 10 years younger, tan as a beach towel and loud as a leaf blower on a Sunday morning, my polar opposite. But I didn't chase. I didn't plead. I just stepped aside. Let her go. A new beginning in Woodbridge. I moved out to Woodbridge, Virginia. Small town, quieter pace, big sky. Bought myself a modest single-story ranch on the edge of town. No HOA, big maple tree out front. Enough room for a vegetable patch and a dog I hadn't named yet. I rebuilt my life slowly, brick by brick. A morning cup on the porch, evening walks, church on Sundays, no drama. My daughter Chloe visited when she could. She was in grad school in D.C., busy, driven, still caught between loving both her parents and not wanting to pick sides. I never asked her to. I didn't need much, just peace, and for 2 years I had it until I got the letter. The envelope that brought the storm. It came on a Wednesday. Thick cream envelope, gold lettering, return address from some downtown D.C. law firm I couldn't pronounce. Inside a court summons and a petition. Marlene was suing me for ownership of my house. Not our old marital house that was already hers, the one she and Dennis were living in. My new house, the one I bought after the divorce. With my money in my name, she claimed she had rights to continued spousal assets due to lifestyle downgrade. Her new husband was between ventures, and I quote, "This property better aligns with the standard of living she was accustomed to during the marriage." I read the line 3 times. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I might have broken something. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the porch in my robe, coffee going cold in my hands, heart pounding in my chest. Not from fear, but from resolve. Marlene had just made the biggest mistake of her life. And I wasn't going to fight her with fists or shouting or even a high-priced lawyer. I was going to bury her in her own arrogance. Chapter 2. No lawyer, no problem. Courtroom 3B smelled like old wood polish and dust-covered entitlement. I sat alone at the respondent's table, a plain gray suit, hands folded neatly. No legal pad, no lawyer beside me, just me, my quiet breath, and a calm that had taken 2 years to build. Across the aisle, Marlene sat flanked by 2 high-priced attorneys. Dennis, her new husband, chewed gum beside her in an ill-fitting sport coat that probably cost more than his car payment. The moment he saw me alone, he snorted. Marlene didn't even look up. Her lead attorney, some guy with a hyphenated last name and Rolex bigger than his wrist, leaned over and whispered something. They all chuckled, let them laugh. They thought they were walking into a formality. They had no idea what was coming. The judge reads the plan. Judge Morrison entered. Late 60s, straight-shooting type Army vet turned family court iron fist. I'd done my homework on him. He leaped through the folder Marlene's team had submitted. A glossy, full-color packet detailing how she and Dennis required my home to maintain lifestyle continuity after her remarriage. It included a transition plan. I would have 30 days to vacate my home. She would take ownership of the deed and contents. I would not interfere with property transfers. And my favorite part, I would pay closing costs. The judge raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, you filed this as a necessary post-divorce adjustment due to financial hardship, correct? Marlene nodded, clutching Dennis's hand for effect. He turned to me. Mr. Collins, do you have representation? I stood calm. No, Your Honor, I don't need one. I just have one item I'd like to submit. I pulled a single manila envelope from my inside jacket pocket. Sealed. Crisp labeled simply. Exhibit A, private agreement, dated and notarized. I handed it to the bailiff. The document she forgot, Judge Morrison read silently for a few seconds. Then, like a thunderclap in a quiet room, he slapped the folder shut. He looked directly at Marlene. Ma'am, are you aware that 2 weeks before your divorce finalized, you and Mr. Collins signed a postnuptial settlement agreement filed and notarized, which states explicitly that any future property acquired by either party is to be considered separate and exempt from any claim, present or future? Marlene blinked. Dennis looked lost. Her lawyer stammered, Your Honor, we were not made aware of any such agreement." "Well, now you are," the judge snapped. Then he turned back to me, eyes narrowing with quiet respect. "Mr. Collins, how did you remember this document when your ex-wife's legal team did not?" I smiled softly because I was the one who asked her to sign it. 5 words. The judge stood, looked directly at Marlene and Dennis, then delivered 5 words that echoed through the chamber like a final verdict. "This case is summarily dismissed." He banged the gavel. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Chapter 3. The Backyard Surprise. Marlene didn't leave the courthouse quietly. Even with the judge's dismissal ringing in her ears, she stomped out like a woman denied an inheritance. Dennis trailed behind her, face red, jaw clenched. But me? I walked to my truck, took a long breath of spring air, and smiled. But I wasn't done. You see, when someone tries to take everything from you, you don't just walk away. You make sure they understand why it all fell apart. And that lesson was waiting for them right in my backyard. The fence. They didn't notice. 3 weeks earlier, I'd added something new to the property. A tall privacy fence around the rear acreage. It wasn't just to keep out nosy neighbors. It was for what I was building behind it. Dennis and Marlene had never seen it. They thought my home, the home they tried to take in, was just a quiet ranch with a porch swing and an aging oak tree. They didn't know what lay just beyond the slatted wood. A restored 1939 red Ford Deluxe coupe, a decked-out RV with solar and satellite. A standalone guest house I had started building the week after our divorce. Fully permitted, fully legal, and fully owned in my name. They came snooping. I saw them from the upstairs window 2 nights later. Marlene's SUV rolling slowly past the house, then parking 2 houses down. She didn't knock, didn't call, just walked around the side of the house like she still owned it. Dennis followed, phone in hand, filming, smirking. I slipped on my coat and stepped out the back, watching from the shadows as they reached the newly built gate. That's when Marlene gasped. "What the hell?" She stared at the coupe, the RV, the second structure. Dennis stopped filming. His face dropped. Marlene's voice cracked. Is that a whole second house?" Yes, it was a home I'd started the moment she left. A space that was hers in spirit, but would never be hers in law, built with my own hands, my own funds after she'd walked away. A symbol of everything she gave up. What she saw wasn't just lumber and vehicles. It was independence, self-respect, control, all the things she'd tried to destroy in court. Alive and thriving behind a fence she never bothered to peek over. I stepped into the light. "You forgot to ask about the backyard," I said calmly. She turned, startled. Dennis looked ready to bolt. "Leave," I added, "before I make another call to the sheriff this time." They backed away, silent. The same silence that had echoed in that courtroom, now doubled in weight. Chapter 4, The Auction Invitation. I didn't hear from Marlene or Dennis for nearly 2 months after that night in the backyard, but I heard about them. Small towns talk. And when someone who used to parade around like a queen starts showing up at the Dollar General in worn flip-flops and avoiding eye contact, people take notice. Turns out Dennis's business, the marketing startup he bragged about at every party, was circling the drain. He'd taken out loans in both their names. One bounced, then another, then a car got repossessed. Marlene wasn't just watching her new life crack. She was now legally liable for debts that weren't hers before she walked away from me. I didn't say a word. I just watched and waited. The envelope that changed everything. On the 3rd Monday of April, I mailed out 25 glossy invitations. Black envelopes, gold calligraphy. It looked like a wedding invite, but it wasn't. It read, "You are cordially invited to attend an exclusive one-day property auction event hosted by H. Blake. Retired contractor, proud grandfather, and homeowner. Location 742, Willow Creek Drive. Bidding opens 100 p.m. sharp. Preview of rare vintage items and tools begins at 11 a.m. Refreshments provided." One invite was addressed to Marlene, another to Dennis. The crowd gathers. The day of the auction, my yard buzzed with locals. They came for the RV, for the coupe, for the vintage saws and hand-turned maple furniture I'd built during those long, bitter post-divorce nights. I wasn't selling them for the money. I was selling them to fund my daughter's college trust right there in the open. Every bid was a message. Every handshake was proof that I'd built more than just houses in this life. I'd built respect, character, and a reputation worth something. The confrontation. Marlene showed up halfway through. No makeup, jaw tense. Dennis behind her. Phone out again. Always recording. Never doing. She marched up to the folding table where I sat with the auctioneer. "What is this?" she hissed. "Why would you invite us?" I looked her dead in the eyes, "Because you tried to steal what I built. Now you're watching me give it away with purpose, not pity." Dennis muttered something, but no one cared. No one even looked at him. He wasn't the center of this story anymore. He was just the last page in a chapter I'd finished writing long ago. Chapter 5. The 5 Words in Court. It was a Wednesday morning when I walked into the courtroom. Same courthouse, same judge, same woman sitting across from me. This time in a sharp gray suit and stone-cold stare that could curdle milk. But something was different now. I wasn't here to defend myself. I was here to let the court see exactly who she'd become and who I no longer was. The final petition, Marlene had filed a motion claiming she was entitled to the house I'd built after our divorce. Because, get this, he used marital skills and divorce profits from his former business, which I supported to acquire said property. Thus, I have partial constructive ownership. Even her lawyer looked like he didn't fully believe it, but he was paid to talk, so he did. For 20 minutes, he laid out her contribution to my success. The coffee she made while I worked, her presence in the home, her emotional labor, and yes, sharing ideas at dinner while I drafted blueprints. I didn't flinch. Didn't smile because I knew what I had in my pocket. The envelope returns. When the judge asked for my statement, I stood. No lawyer again. Your Honor, I have no counterclaim. Just this. I handed over a sealed envelope. Inside a copy of Marlene's own notarized post-nuptial agreement signed just 2 weeks before she filed for divorce. It clearly stated she had no claim now or in the future to any assets acquired after separation. Her signature, her notary, her idea even. At the time, she said, "Let's make it clean so we can both move on." Ironic. The judge opened the envelope, read it, then took off his glasses and looked straight at her. Then he leaned forward, tapped his gavel lightly, and said, "Motion denied. Case is dismissed." But then he paused. He leaned back again and said 5 words that made the entire courtroom, including Marlene's own attorney, freeze. "Ma'am, what were you thinking?" The collapse. Marlene's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her attorney blinked twice, then slowly turned to look at her. I didn't stay for the aftermath. I didn't need to. What she tried to do was a final power play, one that backfired so hard it burned the very ground she was standing on. I left the courthouse alone again, but this time not empty. Epilogue. More than just a house. That evening, I sat in my living room, same house she tried to take, sipping iced tea with my daughter and her fiancé, the same daughter Marlene had once begged to stay neutral. The same daughter who now said, "I'm proud of you, Dad. Not just for what you built, but for who you stayed." The walls of the house didn't feel like a fortress anymore. They felt like peace. Because the real revenge wasn't just keeping what was mine. It was watching her realize she lost something money could never buy back. Character, trust, and a place in the story of the man she underestimated. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one.